May God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
See how the trouble you've started?
Be they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. Time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got your bodies upon the gears, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported talk radio, throwing ourselves upon the gears of the machine. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
You called down the thunder, well now you got it. Right, you tell them I'm coming, and hell's coming with me, you hear? Hell's coming with me!
Revolution Radio.
Welcome to Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking. What's this show all about? Well, it's all in the title. He enjoys interviewing people about issues that he finds interesting and which cause him to sit back and think. Cryptocurrency, true crime, natural law, the occult. No topic is off limits here. He has always enjoyed when people give their points of view or thoughts on different topics that they have researched. And what makes it all great is that it's their unique take on what is being discussed. For that reason alone, it makes it interesting to him. So take that walk down to his crypt. Make yourself comfortable. And just maybe, he will be discussing a topic that you have been thinking about. Here's your host, Crypt Rick.
Well, everybody, we are back once again Monday night in the Crypt. That's where we are, and that is what you're listening to if you have tuned in. And if you do tune in every Monday night, Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking. I'm, of course, your host, Crypt Rick, and I want to welcome you all once again. It is winter here. It is cold. It is cold, let me tell you. Definitely, and how I missed the days when I was complaining about the grass growing a few weeks ago. Because it is cold and it is, I don't get along with the cold, but it is winter. And I know people say, hey, you lived in Canada your whole life. You should be used to it. Stop your bitching and complaining. So I got to do that. But it doesn't mean I like it. Doesn't mean I like the cold just because I'm stuck here. But we do climatize. It's all could be way worse. It's just a little bit cold. You got to bundle up, dress a little warm, and you're good. And I am overdressed from the podcast room. I just looked down and noticed that. So I'm going to be peeling clothes off probably any minute because I'm going to be cooking once the heat kicks on in here. But anyways, hopefully everybody is a great weekend and is having the start to a great week. You know I love Mondays, and I am looking forward. This is going to be a great show. I got a little bit of an audio file I want to play right at the beginning here. It's like 20 minutes long. And if you check out the YouTube channel, this is brand new for his channel as well, a little mini documentary. Like 20 minutes long, as I said. Realization is spelled RealEYesation. And I will put a link in the chat room for you guys to go and check it out. He did amazing. And this is a great one. He gets into who owns you, and he gets into the whole slavery concept. It's amazing. He did such a great job. I've had him on the show a couple times. I've played our interviews here. So please go show some love and support over there and like his channel. And he's putting out great stuff. He really breaks down like modern day slavery and tells you and gives you the tools and the questions to ask people so you can get them thinking along those lines and really asking themselves those hard questions. When they're sitting alone, they got an answer. And so it's great. I want to play it. He did, like I said, a great job. And before we get into that, and then I'm going to have some guests, which is very cool. I'm going to have probably 2 or 3 guests on today. So it's going to be a show that is just, hey, we're going to be popping, guys. So I'm going to have some great guests on. We are going to be talking about so many different, because I wanted to male and female energy and that dynamic and how that plays out. We are going to probably get into the dating scene from a male aspect. As you remember with Mario West, just a few weeks ago, we were talking about this very topic, and she got such, and I did as well, got such great reviews for that interview because people think it's a topic that needs to be dived in way deeper. and it's not talked about enough. There is a big dynamic. There's a big chasm going that they are trying to engineer between the male and female. So it's going to be great. I'm going to have a few guests on here. I'm very excited, but I want to get through this clip here. But before I do, you know that here at Revolution Radio, guys, it is listener supported. It is through your guys' generosity. It keeps us here doing our shows every week. There's so many great hosts here doing incredible shows on so many topics. It's such a variety, and it's great. It's 24/7. And that is so incredible. And what makes it very special is that it's free speech here. We do not have to be worried about being censored and our content being pulled down. And as we all know, and I keep reminding everybody, that's happening, and you guys know it is. I'm kind of preaching to the choir in a lot of cases that people are losing their channels, their interviews, their content. It's just being pulled down, and everything on the internet's being censored, it seems. And so it's so valuable to have a place like Revolution Radio where you can go and you don't have to worry about that. You can talk about any topic openly, and that's what we're fighting for, especially now, guys. I always say, if you're not going to join the battle now in some way, I don't know what more it will take to make you join it. And one way you can do that is by donating. It's by giving a little donation, and it's a long way, guys. And there's so many ways you can donate. You just go to revolution.radio, up to the donation tab, and there's so many ways. As I always tell you guys, there's cryptocurrency. So Bitcoin, Cash, Ethereum, snail mail. It takes a while, but it does get there. There's direct pay, and there's also Patreon. So if you want to do a monthly payment, you set that up. They take care of it, and then that way every month your donation is going to be used to keep this station going here. None of the money, just to remind people as well that are listening, none of the money that you donate goes to any of the hosts here. It is strictly to keep Revolution Radio here every day of the week for you guys. And that's just the truth. So it all goes into keeping the station here. Also, if you do have a business or you want something, you need a banner space to promote a product, your site, and you want to promote, they got you covered there as well. Just go to revolution.radio, and you will see right at the top, there's a little banner section, and there's an email there. That's where you go. Contact that email, put a banner up there. It's only $25 a month, which is incredible for that price. Basically, you're going to have your banner going, scrolling through 24/7. And that's such a great price to me. And I've used it several times myself for the Funnel Conference. I love to do it a couple months right before the Funnel Conference goes, that weekend launches. And a couple of people have already told me that that's how they found Funnel. So it works. And it's a value, $25. I mean, that's great, especially to have advertising 24/7. That's just going to keep scrolling, and it's amazing. So many people will see it, and it's going to help and get your product, your website, whatever it is you want to promote out there. With that out of the way, let's go ahead. As I was telling you, I just want to get all my little announcements done and get those out of the way at the start of the show. And so, as I was saying, this is going to be from the web. Go to the YouTube channel, Realization, and this is his new documentary. It's incredibly done, very well done, very professional. Information in 20 minutes, and I just love it. I had to play it. I wanted to play it here first for you guys to hear. Please, like I said, go over to his YouTube channel and subscribe and show some support, because we need more support. We need more people, more eyes on these topics that are being covered. So I'm going to go ahead and play that, and then at the end of it's like 22 minutes. At the end of that, I'm going to get my guest on here, and we're probably going to be talking about so many different things. So stick around. This is going to be a great show, guys. As you can tell, I'm really excited for it because I'm going to have some great guests on. So let's go ahead and get this playing. And I will be back with you to talk about this right at the end of this.
Question. Who owns you? You might be inclined to ask, well, what do you mean, who owns me? If I have to ponder the idea of somebody owning me, then that somebody would obviously be me, would it not? And you are absolutely correct, and you should make no bones about it. I agree that you own you. I ask because most of us think and act in ways that are not concordant with that basic truism, the fact that you own yourself. We behave and think in ways that directly contradict that very premise. So let's start very rudely. What does ownership imply? What does it mean to own something? The most accurate definition of ownership I have found is this: he who owns something has the exclusive right to decide what is done with that particular thing. Let us use that as our foundation, from whence we will attempt to discover whether you truly own yourself or not. When you own a car, you have the exclusive right to decide what is done with that car. It is you and only you who decides whether somebody may borrow that car from you, whether it is painted blue, red, black, or any other color, and whether somebody else may claim ownership of the car if you decide to trade with them. Your judgment is primary. Nobody else's judgment has any higher authority over the vehicle than you do. The same principle may apply consistently to owning a house. When you wish to rent that house to somebody, or want a house a different color, or want to build a deck in your backyard, it is you and only you who makes that decision, because you own the house and nobody else does. If I rent that house from you and I want to build a deck, I need your permission to be able to do so, because I don't own it, you do. The judgment of the owner is always primary. Now, with that out of the way, we can also apply this premise of ownership to the possession of a somebody rather than a something. And if some of you might own somebody else, well, consider the premise of slavery. Slavery implies that one individual or group of individuals owns another individual. And if you own something or somebody, in this case, they are your property. The individual who owns the other individual as his slave, the slave master, has the exclusive right to decide what is done with the slave. If the slave wants to possess something or do something or go somewhere, he needs his master's permission to be able to do so. The judgment of the slave master has the highest authority over the slave. The slave's judgment is always secondary and is principally irrelevant. He is not allowed to decide his own destiny for himself because he does not own himself. The slave master does. And so it is the slave master who may decide what the slave can or cannot do, what is going to happen with his body, and how much he is allowed to keep of the fruits of his own labor. The exclusive right to decide is the chief principle of ownership. Of course, you will have the occasional benevolent slave master who will allow his slaves to be more free, will allow his slaves to keep more of what they produce rather than take it all, who will allow his slaves to have more privileges under his helm. A slave master may allow his slaves to keep 25% of what they produced, and if they're really lucky, they may even be allowed to keep 50 or 75%. But what makes it still slavery? Well, just look at the word allowed. I, as your authority or owner, will allow you to keep more of what you earn. Well, if they are allowing you, that means that it's up to them to decide whether you get to keep as much or not, which means that they have the exclusive right to decide what is done with what you've produced with your own time, energy, and efforts. The slave doesn't get to decide how much he can keep of what he has earned. The master decides that. The one with the exclusive right to decide what is done with somebody's body or the fruits of his labor is the owner. So, what does it mean to own oneself? To own oneself is to have the exclusive right to decide what is done with you. You come into this mysterious macrocosm of a reality with your own beautiful body. You have a certain amount of time in this life. You and you alone decide what you do with that time. You may trade your time, energy, and attention for resources or mediums of exchange with which you could acquire other resources in order to sustain your life. And it is you and you alone who decides what is going to happen with your body and all the fruits of the labor that you were able to produce with it. You've given your time, energy, and attention in exchange for that money, or whatever resource it may be. You've given a piece of your own life for those resources that you've acquired with it, and thus only you decide what is done with them. Somebody else may ask you if they could have some of your rightfully acquired resources, usually in exchange for other resources commensurate with their value, or you may give something for free. But it's still you who gets to decide whether you do that or not. Just like with the car or the house, you own it. Your volition is paramount. Nobody else gets to decide that for you, because you have the highest authority over yourself. You have the exclusive right to decide what is done with your own body, your own time, energy, attention, and everything that you've been able to rightfully acquire with it. And ultimately, you own your life. Now, does our current existence within this system of control under the helm of government coincide with the former, the slave-master relationship, or the latter, you owning yourself? And just be honest with yourself. Are you really in charge of what you spend your own time, energy, and efforts on? Are you really the one who has the exclusive right to decide what is done with your own body and your own possessions? Or does the government proclaim to have? when they demand that you hand over a large sum of what you've rightfully earned and force you to make decisions with your own body and with your own time that you'd rather not make if you had the choice. The fact that you don't have a choice, the fact that it's not up to you to decide what gets to happen with your own property, implies that you really do not have the exclusive right to decide. But they do. And ultimately means that you do not own yourself and the fruits of your labor, but they do. And if somebody owns somebody else, then that is the definition of slavery. Well, of course, the inevitable response will likely be akin to, well, that's the law. And what? The law is somehow sacrosanct? Well, if we look at history, it doesn't seem like it. Slavery was enacted into law, and anybody who helped slaves escape was doing something that was against the law. Hiding Jews during the reign of the Third Reich was against the law. The Nuremberg trials, the Nazis resorted to the good old, "I was my job, I was just enforcing the law" excuse. But that didn't justify their actions, did it? So the fact that something is made into law does not mean that it's the right thing to do. Obviously, many of you watching would probably say that you would have disobeyed those immoral laws during those days, and rightfully so. That you would have done the right thing regardless of what the law said. But that means that there are exceptions to following the law, does it not? If there are exceptions for following the law, then who decides what those exceptions are? You or the authorities? I'm pretty sure that will be you, right? So then it is not for the authority to determine whether you obey its whims, but you yourself. So your own discernment always stands above the law, and you decide when you abide by it or not. And that can only mean one thing: that law and authority, in fact, do not stand above your own moral conscience and judgment, and that they therefore possess no authority at all. If the authority depends on how many people adhere to it and believe in it, then there is no authority. Imagine somebody saying, "I am obligated to do what he says unless I choose not to." In that case, there is no obligation at all, and thus there is no such thing as government authority. If you're the final arbiter, if you get to decide when you have to obey, then it is an authority. Authority means the right to rule, which implies the obligation to obey, and if you don't have an obligation to obey, then it doesn't have the right to rule. This brings us to another significant element of self-ownership. Who owns your judgment? Who gets to decide what choices you make in life? In life, we always have to make choices. We have to bear the consequences of those choices. Oftentimes, those consequences are negative, sometimes they are positive. These consequences help us learn experience with which we can avoid making those same choices again in the future, the ones that have negative results. We make mistakes so that we learn from them. In order to make a choice in life, we must use rational and moral judgments in order to find out if the consequences of those choices are worth bearing. Choices often include risks, and we alone should be free to take those risks or avoid them altogether. Every time throughout history when man was forbidden to think and act in accordance with his own rational and moral judgments, and was physically coerced into thinking and act according to how some political ruler wanted people to think and act, the most horrible atrocities throughout history had eventuated. We as a species are always learning. We are always innovating, progressing, growing, and advancing. It isn't even that long ago that we believed that smoking was actually healthy, that we had to spray ourselves with DDT and that we thought that mercury and arsenic were suitable remedies for conditions of ill health. And at every point we believed that we knew it all, but we were proven wrong by reality. Now, of course, that is the essence of learning and becoming wiser than you were before, by gaining experience. However, the crucial point is that when we adopt a system of collectivism, we as individuals are forced to make the same mistakes the collective is making. For example, there are always minorities of people who recognize and point out the logical errors and irrationalities behind the diktats enforced by whoever's in charge of the collective, and their criticisms are always answered with vilification, demonization, harassment, violence, and even extermination. And when the mistakes of the collective become apparent enough, that's when we usually start to understand that it was a bad idea. When one is able to use his own judgments, his own discernment, and his own moral judgments, Such mistakes do not have to affect us all. It is only when we are all forced to partake in somebody else's supposedly great master plan that we are all forced to bear the consequences of those mistakes. And as I've said, we are still not at the peak of human civilization, not even close. We are still making mistakes, but why other people's mistakes and consequences be our mistakes and consequences? Who would rather choose to do things that are rational and moral on a voluntary basis, rather than letting one of us impose his plan on the rest of us, and allowing him to use coercion and threats of violence to make us do what he wants, until I realized that it was actually a bad idea to let him do that. Maybe you should let people make their own decisions, rather than assuming that you can make other people's decisions for them, because you think that you're somehow superior to everyone else. When politicians demand that we take certain risks that might cost us our health, or the health of our children, you see, a risk without choice is not a risk, it is assault. Forcing somebody to play Russian roulette and forcing them to pull the trigger is still an act of assault. The thing about risks, which very few statists seem to grasp, is that they can have horrendous outcomes. When a politician or the collective demands that we participate in a taking of various risks to our own well-being, or the well-being of our children and other loved ones, then we are also forced to bear the consequences of those risks. Again, it is critical that an individual applies his own rational faculty and discerns whether it is safe or unsafe to take an injection, for instance, based on the available information. And when a certain injection is still in the middle of its safety trials, can cause detrimental side effects, result in death, then it is of paramount importance that the individual is able to apply prudence and rigor before he exposes himself to such enormous risks. Also considering the fact that when the product's manufacturers and complicit governments try to make such valuable information unavailable to the consumer, and even go as far as to censor other individuals who share their negative experience with that product, and even want to force you to take their products using threats of aggression, then it should be clear such a risk is not worth taking. Or the draft. I'm going to force you to go out and murder whoever I tell you to murder. I'm going to force you to risk your own life and to be a chess piece in our war games. And if you refuse, I'll put you in a cage for several years. If there has ever been an example of somebody claiming ownership of your body, i.e. slavery, the draft would be it. But when an individual takes such an enormous risk, what does that tell you? Do you have the exclusive right to decide what is done with your own body? Or does the government have that right? Do you own your own body? Or does the government own your body? Deeply contemplate that question, please. Of course, we are social creatures. We enjoy the company of our beloved fellow men and women. We prosper and work better and more efficiently when we work together. We want to love each other, respect each other, and help each other. However, this is not the same as the collectivist premise. The most important thing is who owns the individual. Who decides what the individual is allowed of what he produces, and what decisions he shall or shall not make with his own life? Who is going to decide the individual's life for him? The individual or the collective? Obviously, that would only be the individual himself. The individual owns himself. He decides what he will do with the fruits of his own labor, which he gave time, energy, and attention for in order to earn it. He traded a piece of his life for the resources he rightfully acquired. His life, his body, and his resources solely belong to him. The individual owns himself, and he and only he will decide his own destiny. And surely, if we own ourselves, we make our own decisions. We decide how we spend our own money, our time, with whom we spend our own time, and to what endeavors we dedicate our energy and attention. The judgment of the individual is primary, and that constitutes true individualism. He is not owned by the collective. His life and his labor are the property of some group or state. His path in this mysterious realm called life is solely to explore and experience as he sees fit, for as long as he doesn't forcibly impede other individuals from doing the same. Again, every single time that a collective or a state owns the individual, it's the individual to make his own decisions, and to use his own rational judgment and moral conscience, the worst tragedies in history have eventuated as a result. An individual can choose to join a group and work together with others, but only on a voluntary basis. It's time to wake up and realize that you've been convinced to put up with your own enslavement. Living under the helm of a government is no different than living under the helm of a slave master. It still claims to possess the exclusive right to decide what is done with you, your body, and the fruits of the labor that you were able to produce with it. You still need their permission to do anything with what you've been allowed to use or do. They still decide how much they will allow you to keep of what you rightfully earn with your own time and effort. And they still get to decide what you get to do with your own body. So based on this foundation of ownership and self-ownership that we've laid out, we can accurately define what freedom actually means, what it means to not be a slave. Freedom has always been touted as something arbitrary and elusive. Postmodernists frequently argue that it is merely a subjective construct of the human mind, but basic logic will defy this short-sighted understanding of the concept of freedom. Freedom is the right to decide your own destiny and to make your own decisions, unrestricted by any compulsion. It has also been colloquially described as the right to say no. Nobody else makes your decisions for you because you have the highest authority over yourself, and nobody else does. Nobody owns you. You own you. In a system of government and rulership, you never own yourself. You are never free. Surely some people may insist that some individuals may need leaders to guide them, and I do not disagree, but the truth is, even if people really need somebody to lead them, they are still in charge of themselves, deciding for themselves whether they will take the advice or guidance or not. It would be pretty insane for somebody to say, I want you to force me to do things whether I agree with them or not. Again, the individual's judgment is always primary. No man can or should ever have the power to force others to subordinate themselves to his will. He may persuade others, he may guide others, he may teach others, but he may not constrain, for it is the results of his guidance that validate the veracity of his guidance. In other words, if a leader has a good reputation, and if his advice and guidance help people improve their own lives, he does not need compulsion in order to get people to do what he wants them to do. And if he happens to be wrong and gets people to do things that serve only himself rather than the people who follow his guidance, then people always possess the freedom to withdraw their participation and to simply say no and move on. This brings us to the ultimate distinction. A free society doesn't exclude leadership, but what it does exclude is rulership. Man is not too incompetent and too ill-witted to govern his own life and to organize and cooperate with his own fellow men and women on a voluntary basis. He has only been convinced by incessant indoctrination that those individuals who make up the political ruling class are superior in wisdom and intelligence regarding every single area of life where we make our decisions, whether it pertains to our financial life, our health, or our children. The notion is always promulgated that those third parties know better than us. Such a dubitable notion has of course been too tritely expressed to the point where it has now lost its credibility because it has never stood up to the test of time. But still, it is the instilled programming of such a notion at a very young age that inclines individuals. But what about this? And how will we do this without government? When we truly give up the notion that politicians know how to spend our better than we do, then we, the actual individuals who bear the consequences of our decisions, will make much better decisions than politicians, who don't bear any consequences for their poor and detrimental decisions, and can continue to make them whether we like them or not, for as long as we continue to believe in that ridiculous notion. If the person who spends your money doesn't bear the same consequences as you would if you had to make that same decision, you can be sure that the likelihood of him being prudent and efficient with your money is close to zero. Nobody is better at spending your own money than you are. No one is better at running your own business than you are, because you actually have a legitimate incentive to make the best of it. A politician doesn't. It's very easy to spend somebody else's money, risks to our own livelihoods and the livelihoods of our loved ones, to test out the assertions made by third parties for which they pay no price if they happen to be wrong, nor does the majority that votes for them to force people to take such risks, nor do the enforcers of such diktats. And by the way, restitutions aren't on the resume of politicians, since admitting that you were wrong isn't exactly good promotional material for the next election. And the enforcers of such immoral and detrimental laws will always hide behind the phrase, "I was just doing what I was told. I don't use my judgment. I don't use my conscience like a human being. I just violently enforce whatever I'm told to enforce, like a marionette on strings." The debate shouldn't be about whether we should politicians do the right things or the side of the political spectrum believes that they're the ones doing the thing until it doesn't stand up to the test of time. Rather, people should ask themselves the question, since when is it up to other individuals to decide how money should be spent? Since when do other individuals get to decide what decisions I should be forced to make or prohibited from making? If it's for me and for every other human being to use threats of violence to make people do what I want them to do, which is called coercion, then how does it suddenly become moral when I instead vote for somebody else to do it for me? How does the ballot box, a pen and a piece of parchment alter morality? How does a scribble on parchment turn wrongful behaviour into right behaviour? And how does one delegate a right that he doesn't even have? Isn't it funny how we all have the right to freedom, yet politicians somehow possess the right to infringe upon our freedom? Let me make something very clear, and I want you to pay close attention. There is no such thing, and there can never be such a thing as a right to infringe upon a right. It is inherent. It is logically impossible. I can't make it any more simple than that. Of course, human beings are not perfect. We are not always prudent, we are not always generous, and we are not always benign. But the notion that we need to have a system that will control and rule over everybody as a collective is quite troublesome. As Larkin Rose once said, if people are too stupid, selfish and malicious to be free to make their own decisions, as many people assume, are they also not too stupid and malicious to be trusted with power over others? So because people are too stupid, selfish and malicious, is it at all a good idea that we ought to give a small portion of those same stupid, malicious, selfish human beings the right to forcibly control and dominate the lives of other people, and give them the societal permission to hurt those who don't do as they say? If you human beings, if the thought of allowing human beings to be free to exercise their own individual judgments and moral actions is dreadful to you, because you don't trust them and don't know what they have in mind, then who's going to run the system that is supposed to control them? It is quite ironic that when we try to picture a moral, intelligent, honest, compassionate, humble, loving human being, a politician is the last person that comes to mind. Yet we trust them to make our decisions for us and to forcibly take and spend our money in the way they said. And we trust them with the power to coerce and assault those who disobey them. And we trust them to use all of that power to serve our interests? If that doesn't sound like a bloody utopia, then I don't know what does. We've been proven wrong for millennia now. Countless precedents of warmongering, manslaughter, domination, democide and corruption, because we've been repeating the same underlying mistake that we've made since time immemorial. The belief that we must set aside our own judgments, free will and conscience, and instead have to act, think and behave according to how some politician or collective wants us to act, think and behave at any given time, and essentially be the robot of somebody else, with the only possible choice being which person may pull those strings on people's behaviour this year, and hoping that the next person who pulls the strings makes people do the right things.
Well, there you got it, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. To me, that was such an incredible little documentary, little presentation that the channel, like I said, it is Realization, REALEYESATION. I will leave a link in the chat room. Please, like I said, if you could, go show some love. Go and like and subscribe to the channel, because he is putting great content. You can see he is breaking down slavery and in a very, I think, simplistic way, and an easy to understand way. and it definitely gets a conversation going. So please check him out, guys. I just hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I did, and it's brand new. Like, that was just put out, I think, 2 days ago. So it's incredible, incredible stuff. So I am going to go ahead. I have my one guest already on here, my friend Derek. He is a one great worker. Are you there, Derek? Hello, hello.
Bonjour, bonjour.
There he is, Derek. I always mess up your last name, Bartolacelli. Did I get it?
Yeah, there's a little syllable left out. Bartolacelli.
Bartolacelli. There we. I was
kind of
close
to Botticelli, but yeah, we try to keep things artistic and simplistic,
awesome.
And yeah, a little mysticky.
Absolutely. Well, welcome. First, it's so great to have you here, and I'm just going to be getting Jerry here. So I put the word out to Jerry that we got him going on, and I was just, like I said, this documentary, this little mini documentary that Realization, the YouTube channel, put out, and he's breaking down slavery and ownership and stuff, and it's 20 minutes long, but it really hits hard. I think it's great, and the audio, it works well too. So if you want to see the video format, obviously the link for everybody to go check it out, as I was saying, but it plays well in audio too. I thought the message is super powerful.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah, and you've had him on your show a couple times, right?
Yes, yeah, we did a 3-part series.
Yeah,
3-part series, man, breaking down, because I think this is so important, and I know we're going to get into a lot today. So let me get Jerry in here. Who knows where this conversation is going to go? Yeah, I love it that way, as everybody knows. So I'm going to get Jerry in here. We never had Jerry on here. I mean, this will be a first.
Right
so
on.
we will get him on here. I'm excited. I've interviewed you too on my YouTube channel. I don't think you've been on radio though.
Ooh, maybe not. Unless.
There's Jerry, and welcome, Jerry. How are you doing?
Yeah, Jerry.
Good. How are you guys?
Rocking, man, rocking. Great to have you here. I'm so excited. I got you on the radio show.
Me too, Crypt.
Awesome. Yeah, we got Derek here, and I think Will Keller is going to be stopping in too. He just is heading home, and he's going to stop in. So this is going to be a great round table. And
awesome.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting your guys' thoughts. But I was telling people at the beginning, I'm not sure if you guys heard it, because like I said, I was playing the audio and trying to get everybody linked up here. And I was saying that I had Maria West on just a few weeks ago, and we got into relationships, and it got a great response, she said, because it's a topic I think needs to be talked about way more than it is. This divide that is going on between the man and the woman, and the male and the feminine energies, and it's affecting like the dating scene. I was telling Maria that I have friends that are single, right in the prime dating age, but they're petrified. Like, it's got to the point where they don't even want to date anymore. That's a scary place to be. What are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. What you got to say, Derek?
Yeah, I love Maria West, one of my most favorite human beings on the planet, and I've had the honor and luck of, doing a couple segments ring around relationships, even being on, talking with her and collaborating on a musical spoken word piece that I put some visuals to called Lover's Touch. And that really is profound, and just like getting more empathic with the we go about, and just relate with the opposite sex. And it's more of like a, hinting towards the guys on how to treat a woman, how to touch them, how to, make love to them properly,
right.
All these things. We're so caught up in what Maria talks about, hookup culture.
Oh my
and
God,
she goes
that's
into
rampant.
Things like trauma bonding, which we can get into as well. And just, yeah, man, there's so many avenues we could travel through, dabble into regarding, all these things. So, did you want to ask a question or something like that?
I want to get Jerry's thoughts. What do you like? What are your thoughts, Jerry, on the whole, this whole divide going on? I mean, I was just saying, a second ago, I have friends that they're ready for dating, but they don't want to, because, and the one friend told me the reason he does is he doesn't know his role anymore. And to me that's fascinating when you hear somebody say that, especially to your face. Like when they're like, I don't even know my role as a guy anymore. I don't know what women expect of me anymore. And so there's definitely a divide going on, and on purpose, some confusion put in. So what are your thoughts, Jerry? Do you know anybody in this situation, or just want to get your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard from you, Crypt, it's kind of like a bad scene right now, the whole dating thing.
Mm-hmm.
Divorce rates are skyrocketing. People aren't happy. Sometimes they stick together just for the kids. And I met this one guy at the gym the other day. He said, yeah, I'm getting a divorce. Like, I just stayed with my partner for the kid. And so you got to be prepared for that stuff. So I think having autonomy is important. And yeah, you said your friend didn't know what his role was. I think you should know what your role is if you want the relationship to be successful.
I agree. But what do you do what do you do when the social engineers are blurring those lines, right? That's the problem. I agree. I think there is and I absolutely believe that there is a masculine role and there's a feminine role in the relationship. I don't think one's more important than the other. I think it's like everything else in life. I think balance, and I think there's a give and take. And I described it to Maria. I was like, for me, the relationship is an ebb and flow. Like, I mean, there's, it's not always cut center. And sometimes you're holding your partner up and you know what, at their time of need, and they need some holding up, and then you may need that in the future. So they're holding you up, and then it's back and forth. It's this play that you have. Totally. It's like and I think that's the problem. And a lot of women, we were getting into the feminist movement where women want to do everything on their own. They don't need a man. We heard all this. So the guys are kind of walking around going, well, do they want a dominant man? Do they want a caring man? And that kind of thing. Like, where do they stand?
Yeah, and Mario goes into this. We had her on Dissolving the Divide. You brought the word that, it's like I got that inner ear ringing every time I hear it now because, Leslie Powers and I got that show going on. And we had Mario West on there, talking about the balance of the sacred masculine and feminine, and how if we look at these things through archetypal energies, if you will, there are distinct differences of those, but, there are aspects within each and every individual. Right. They just, are manifested physically through obvious, traits or whatnot. But, she talks about how there is that, ebb and flow between those two pillars of enlightenment, right? The, inner masculine, feminine within each and all of us, kind of going back to the non-aggression principle versus the masculine principle, protective and whatnot, and kind of, having action in the physical domain. And you can see the dynamic of how women that are overly imbalanced in the masculine, and when guys are looking at that, they're like, yeah, what is my role in that? How do I, fit in that formula sometimes? And we have so many different, things going with, umpteen flipping dating apps and all these things.
That's crazy.
And yeah, I had a sneak peek into that like a year ago when I was, I'm actually quite happy. A little bit later. Nice. I'm not one to kiss and tell, but I'm with an older woman here in France. It's really cool, and I haven't had a flash of any of these thoughts of like, oh, what's my role and blah blah blah. Am I emasculated in this relationship or any of that stuff? But you go on the dating apps and you see what women are demanding and what their lifestyle is, and they have all these things and they want these standards. I'm totally for people, setting the bar than, this mediocre miasma. But, hopefully that they are aligned to that standard and are walking the talk or whatever. Right. But the main point I want to get across is that there's, there's a lot of women that just, I don't know. It's hard for a man to relate to sometimes, especially if they're using more, traditional types of personalities and lifestyles, I guess. And there's nothing wrong with women just doing their thing and being independent and strong and sovereign and all these things. But both parties need to know, where they stand and what they want. Obviously, there's that law of attraction that plays in everything. But not to drag on. Jerome.
I love it. I love what you're saying. And like you were saying, like you're in a relationship now and it's working and you don't even have thoughts. It's beautiful when it works. Like it's when it's working the way it's meant to work, it's beautiful. It really is. And so it's just fascinating. And yeah, the dating apps, I have friends that were in those dating apps, and I was just like, that is a horror show to me. Like, I'm just like, wow. Like, I mean, this hookup culture is rampant. And I'm just like, how like, this is how like diluted it's gotten to where like now this hookup culture it's rampant. Like then to me, I'm kind of aging myself and dating myself a little, but I came from a time when you kind of had to woo a woman. You know, you had to take them on a date, and you went on many. You court them, and you bring them. You know, you're kind of getting to know each other. The fact that, you know, and then, was there one night stands at bars? Absolutely. Still goes on. I totally get that. But there was that's way different than you just like get multiple partners. You can have one like you can do 2 or 3 a night. Like if you wanted to. That's crazy.
Apps like, you know, Tinder and all this stuff, whatever, right? It's not just dating, but, you know, hooking up, like literally all they're there for, you know, it's this pool in a sense. And, you know, people can do whatever they want. They have their free will, but at the same time, like, are we not evolved human beings? Are we not in an era where we should be striving higher and not, you know, be operating from our lower senses? You know, there's much more to relationship and interaction and intercourse with the opposite sex or the same sex, whatever people want to, you know, whatever floats their boat, right?
Absolutely. Like I'm just checking right now. You make a great point. We're gonna be getting Will Keller on. Actually, he just messaged me, so we're gonna get him on at the top of the hour.
Willie will be here.
Buddy. Okay, so I just got to message him. But yeah, so Jerry, I just want your thoughts, man. I'm really excited, Jerry, to have you. I mean, I don't think you've done radio. I know you haven't been on my show, like I said. So I'm excited to have you here, and it's your first time on radio. So I hope you're comfortable. And it's, you know, we're just chatting, man. And I think a lot of great things come out of just chatting and giving thoughts and your thoughts on stuff. And like, how do you see, the male and female energies going? Like, what are your take on that? Do you see the divide that is going on? Are you like, seeing it where you live, or like what? Just give us a picture of your thoughts on this whole divide, because I definitely know you agree that there is a war between the male and the female, that they are dividing us.
Right. Yeah. I mean, what I can think of right now are my parents. You know, I hear them arguing all the time. Like there's something not right. There's an imbalance. Mm-hmm. My mom takes on, like, you know, she puts on the pants. My dad, you know, he kind of, you know, takes. And I think that's an imbalance. It's not healthy, in my opinion. So there's work to be done to strengthen those relationships. And I mean, I have family. I mean, my uncle, my aunt, like my uncle's an alcoholic. So like if your relationship isn't strong, like it'll have consequences, mm-hmm. such as like alcoholism, and then now you're slave to a drug. And so I think it's an important topic, and I know we covered this on the One Great Work Warriors.
Absolutely.
What does it mean to be a man? Something along those lines. And what does it mean to be a woman? I know it's kind of controversial, but we really did a good job on that.
I agree. I'm going to make sure that at the end of the show, you guys get a chance to let people know where they can find your work and whatever you want people to know about you. I will make sure at the end of the show I give you guys a couple minutes. But also I want to point people. I will get to the One Great Work Warriors, because you're right, Jerry. We're covering some great topics and important topics. Once a month we get into a great discussion. And what does it mean to be a man? Like, what is that? Like, and it sounds silly when you kind of ask that to yourself and other people. Like, what does it mean to be a man? But when you start digging down and really thinking about it, you start to see the social engineers work at play. When you start seeing people questioning that, and it's like I see this giant moat between male and female now. Like they'd really, and like you were saying, Derek, it can go in so many directions. It gets into the whole. The transgender thing, this whole war that they're doing, to me, it's on the family. I think it boils down to family is what they're attacking.
On that.
Absolutely. Because I think that's the most powerful unit. A healthy family is like to me, an immovable object when it's all working together. So they got to break it apart.
Typical divide and conquer, man. Yeah.
Isn't that their strategy?
One against the other, whatever. Yeah.
Yep. And then they add some fear in there. You start sprinkling, which they love, and then you get this divide, and it's just something you really, when you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just like, wow, they are really playing each other against, like each sex against each other, and then what's suffering? And like Jerry was saying, the family unit, and then it leads to a whole host of other problems. So it's going to be a great talk. I mean, it'll be great to get Will's thoughts, because I know we've got into this with Will too. I've got into this with Will. I think it really starts with family, the family unit, and works. But while starting with yourself, working on yourself, and then that translates into the family, and then that outwardly from there. But a lot of people are missing some of these key steps.
Yeah, Rick, and that just sparked an idea. Just things that I've experienced, and just like a lot of other kids have. It was green, but yeah, Jerry, like you mentioned, like family arguments. You see the parents bicker, and voices getting raised, and tempers getting tantrumed or whatever, right? And that could be traumatizing, and people could kind of just not deal with that and kind of have those negative feedback loops, those generative traumas carry over into their relationships and all that stuff. And when they have kids, it kind of repeats, unfortunately, because there's, that unconscious, undealt with, traumas that they experienced as a child. But what other people can do, and what I've realized that I've done after doing some inner work, not really knowing, the dynamics of it all, but, after revisiting it, we try to refine it when we get more, attuned to what it's all about, and the Carl Jungian psychology of shadow work, if you will, blah, blah, blah. But I've noticed that, even when I was younger, I just saw certain things that were negative, and, apophatically tried to steer my mind towards like the diametric opposite sometimes, or just, things that could, resolve issues, not just be like, oh, this stuff is bad, and, I'm just a victim in it, or just, a spectator not having any power involved in this and that. But
another lie they tell people, that we have no power. That's another one they love, right? Like, and I hear people say that all the time. I'm one person. Like, what can I do? What can I do against this? And I think we all at one point fall prey to that to a certain degree. Like, I think I've asked myself that before. What can I do? And then you start to realize that, at least if you open a history book, you start to realize that many great things start with one person. Like, it's not like this peers. You know what I mean? It's like most great things is they start with one person, and that's what changes and gets the whole thing flowing. So you can do great things, and I just want people to realize that we do have a lot of power. That's what the lie they tell us, is that we don't.
Yeah, and going back to the Hermeticum, everything in existence came from a single thought, going back to mentalism, just to make it brief. Jerry, what's up, man?
No, that's right. Everything starts in the mind. So, like Mark Passio, he changed my life. One person. Like, my whole life changed, guys. Like, I'm no longer in the military. If I never found Mark Passio's work, I might be, in Buds right now, like training to become a Navy SEAL, and then killing someone I don't even know. And now I preach, peace and love. Like, we don't have to kill each other. I know it's hard, but it's possible.
Oh, absolutely. And that's a great way to come into break, Jerry. And maybe we'll get into that about the military and that, and how that, Mark's work changed you. And it was that powerful, because we are going right into break, guys. Like, I'm just checking the time, and this has flown by. And I'm glad that I got another hour with everybody. Will Keller will be joining us for the second hour. So like I said, break is like about 4 or 5 minutes long, not too long, but it gives people a chance to stretch and go to the bathroom, do whatever it is you need to do. Usually for me, it's going to make a coffee. And then we will get back on here, and who knows what we're going to get into. But I really want to get into some of this divide, and I think Will's going to bring a lot to it. I know you will, Derek, and I know Jerry will. I mean, it's going to be I'm really looking forward to this chat, and we have the full second hour, guys, so stick around, and we will be back with all my amazing guests in like 5 minutes. So please join us for hour 2.
Cheers.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Tune in to the Family Industrial Complex podcast here on Revolution Radio, Studio B, every Wednesday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Get fit, empowered, physically, mentally, and spiritually.
After normally scheduled programming to be this important broadcasting announcement. Now is the time to explore your greatest potential, embracing truth, health, and wellness while discarding the system and exposing its corruption. Experience true freedom every Saturday night between 6 and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Live from Studio B, it's the Jonathan Wright Show. Find it right here at Revolution Radio.
I will defend myself against their tyranny. Number 3 is my radio broadcast. I'm rarely in front of the public all the time, and they all know what's going on.
For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily for expanding its sphere of influence.
Hello, my name is John Wayne, and I do a broadcaster at freedomslips.com, revolution.radio, called The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
Freedom and fear are at war.
And folks, I assure you, we are in Defense Condition 1, as we journey perilously through this paradigm that we currently reside in. And I ask that you join me every Saturday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, for The Unequivocal Truth, DEFCON 1.
We'll never surrender.
The original machine had a base plate of prefamulated amulite, surmounted by a malleable logarithmic casing, in such a way that the two spurving bearings were in a direct line with a panometric fan. The lineup consisted simply of 6 hydrocoptic Marsal vanes, so fitted to the ambifacient lunar wane shaft that side fumbling was effectively prevented. The main winding was of the normal Lotus-O deltoid type, placed in panendermic semi-boloid slots of the stator, every 7th conductor being connected by a non-reversible Tremi pipe differential girdle spring on the up end of the gram meters.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio, taking the confusion out of transmutator girdle spring for 4 years and one listener-supported alternative media radio on the planet. All right, thanks for listening while we talk here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to Crypt Rick's I've Been Thinking, and what are we thinking about today and discussing? Well, the divide between the masculine and the feminine. It is a great talk. We're getting into it, and I'm so excited for the second hour. We do have 2 of the One Great Work Warriors. We got Jerry here, who is first time being on the show. We got Derek, and I think it's the first time Derek's been on radio with me, but I have interviewed him. And of course, then Will Keller. Welcome, Will, to the conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. It's a pleasure to be back on your show, Rick. Looking forward to this chat.
Absolutely. And I'm going to get you to kick it off, because we were just talking about it in the first hour, and it's something I've talked with Mari about. As I was saying in the first hour, we get into this divide that it's getting so drastic. The more I start diving and looking into it, Will, that this divide between the masculine and the feminine, and I don't just mean like in the physical being, I'm even talking about the energy, the masculine and the female and feminine energies. And I want you to kind of dive into this wherever you want to start, and to break down what is going on and what they're doing to this energy.
Yeah, well, this is a crucial topic. This is part of the social engineers' agenda to invert nature and reality and truth. And if they can create adversity and a divide within the, then you're already taken out, 50% of the population. So they just need to infiltrate the minds of just one side. They're very good at doing it at both. Through hundreds of years of cultural program, and, using these methodologies of mind control very effectively. The spiritual aspect that people really need to understand is that there's not a stronger force than male and female united. We have Source, God, the Creator, the Supreme Intelligence, and then man and woman. When man and woman come together, it's a divine act. It's one of the most powerful acts, because you can create life. This is great. But even on a platonic level of interacting, masculine and feminine, I mean, this is the two pillars of society, right? Men and women. So when you have a divide or you have adversity on either side, you pit the genders against each other. That is the beginning stages of full-on total societal crumbling. Yeah. That's the pathway to destruction, or full-on physical enslavement. Obviously, that stems from the mind, because this is what it's really about. It's about mind control. Their main principle that the social engineers use is the inversion principle. So it's, upside down world, flipping everything on its head, inverting everything, the knowledge and the axioms that individuals think they know or they believe are completely inverted from what is actual, factual, and truthful. And, we can see how prevalent is even in the regular biology of genders nowadays, where people can just choose who they want to be, what they want to be, with complete disregard of truth and reality in nature. Yeah.
That's so true. And so well broken. You're right. Hear people say that too, right? That everything seems inverted. And I try to tell people that that's what Eve does. It doesn't create anything. It takes something and inverts it. That's what it does, but never creates anything. And that's the part that I think people have to. I hope people understand that it's nothing to do with creation. It's just this warped thing that they're doing, and you're seeing it playing out before our eyes. That in so many areas, it's like you pick the area in there. It's rooted in there.
Yeah, because ultimately they don't want men and women to understand themselves and nature. They want them to have inverted, poor values and not understand truth and objective morality, and the spiritual components. What does it mean to be a man? What does it mean to be a woman? Because, like I was saying earlier, when you come together, you can create life. You can have children, and this is the deciding factor of what's going to go. If people stop having kids, well, there's the depopulation agenda right there in full effect, which is happening through genetic modification, just chemicals and mind control. We're already at a rate where the population is going to be in dire straits in the next generations, especially within the last 3 years, with the needlecraft. We're going to see, birth rates plummet. They already were plummeting in the past, 5 to 7 years. Totally. And that's through, chemical warfare and mind control. But we're going to see a drastic hit of that coming up in the future. But the mind control of the lack of values and morality, objective morality, this is where the mind control they don't want. Mainly, you have to take out the men first, because the men is the strength. This is what the man is. Men build society physically. 98% construction workers, this is what the men do. They build the society, and they are influenced by the woman. This is what a man does. A man is devoted and serves his woman. Okay. So they know this. So if they can infiltrate the feminine and invert the roles, where women think they have equal characteristics, which is absolutely a deception. We are opposites, and we are complementary to each other by design. This is the purpose. It's the yin and yang, right? When you come together, then you have the one. But we are completely opposite. We are not equal attributes and characteristics, and that's a good thing. And of course, we're equal in rights, in nature, in truth.
Yep.
So, I mean, I can rant on this and take it to many directions, but I'll let you guys comment.
I want to definitely get Derek and Jerry's thoughts on what you're saying, Will, but I just want to add before I do that's what I was saying at the beginning of the show is that, you know, they have this divide between man and woman, and I was saying, yes, we're different, but that doesn't mean like we're both equal. They're both equally as important, and I always want to stress that because I don't want people saying, oh, you think a man's more important or a woman. No, they're both different, very different. But their roles are different, but they're equally as important.
Absolutely.
You know,
you can't have one without the other.
Exactly.
And
I know that upsets people.
It's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts? Go ahead, Derek, Jerry. Get your thoughts in here, my friends.
Jerry, I got it locked and loaded. I'll let you go first, brother.
All right. Yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking of like if one thinks that the man is more important than the woman, like what are the results? Like Will was saying, like people would stop having children, and then that leads to depopulation. So it just makes sense to, you know, have the man and the woman are equally as important. And once you realize that, like you'll get good results. So I love what Will said. Man, I'm just here for I'm here for all of this. So don't even worry about that. We're going on so long. I'll pass it to you, Derek.
Cheers, brother. Yeah. Yeah, Will, great points, man. Always great to hear you. It's great you're doing your live streams week in, week out these days. There's so many things that have been so manipulated and all that. And what the solution at the end of this, and I'll get to the gist of it right now, is just really just being holistic within oneself and really being enlightened, being properly standing firm on eternal principles within yourself, building that, temple within yourself, and having those pillars of enlightenment via the masculine and feminine properly balanced within oneself. And even when I was single, I've suffered a really heart-shattering divorce 4 years ago, and I've kind of been a vagabond since then. Moved around 40 different times over 4 years. Have relationships since then, which is keeping me in France, and it's quite a cool romantic dance. But throughout everything, my travels and all that, what's really helped is just staying married, quote unquote, within myself via the alchemical wedding, which is that Hyros Gamos, that fusion of masculine and feminine archetypal energies, as I touched on in the previous hour. So, when someone embodies that, they can navigate this reality and relationships and, the dating scene and all this stuff and all the divide and conquers so much more clearly and with purpose, and not being easily, we're all subjected to it, but manipulated and pulled one way or another. And they love to pull on heartstrings, especially, which, have, the war of the sexes, obviously in a perpetual negative feedback loop on those terms, with the emotions running high, right? So, yeah, Rick, you were going to say?
No, I'm just loving what you guys are saying, and I think this is such an important topic. I really do, because it's like you guys are saying, and I was saying, and I keep saying this, I find myself reading a lot of the things I'm saying in a lot of my shows, but it's because it's so important, and I think people really need to hear it and get it, start getting this, that this attack on the family unit and the family structure, and I keep saying, I think from what I understand and I know, is that that's one of the most powerful, a strong family is so powerful. And that's why they're attacking it. And they're doing a great job. You guys were saying in the first hour, divorce. I look at COVID, and divorce are having a field day. That just tore marriages apart. And you don't hear anybody real that this ripple effect that the last few years have had. But this has been going on way before that. I'm just saying this really added to it. And what they're doing is they're gutting the family unit. And I was fortunate enough to have a strong family. growing up, but it's not something you see much anymore. You see so many single parents, and I get there's a lot of reasons for this. I'm not saying it's a simple thing, but there isn't a war on that. That is what I see them attacking. It seems to come down to that's what they're trying to tear apart. So, if you guys want to add in on that or give your thoughts, let me know if I'm wrong or if I'm in the right area.
No, you're absolutely correct. Touching on the dating scene.
That's a nightmare.
I've been, even that term dating, it can be tough for quote unquote truth seekers and freedom activists, especially one understanding moral principles and doing the work within oneself. Because that's where it ultimately starts. It starts the individual with yourself. You can't give what yourself do not have. So if you do not love yourself and understand yourself, how can you expect to give that to someone else or properly receive that from someone else? So just observing the quote-unquote dating scene and how relationships operate nowadays, it's blinding the trauma that is within individuals. People they get out of a relationship and they just keep bouncing back and forth into relationships, right? Almost instantaneously. Yep. There's no decompression time or anything. And this is a lack of values and moral principles. Every relationship has a fundamental principle that must come first, and that is the service to truth. Because you have to be truthful to yourself and for the relationship to work. It has to be based in truth first. And Rick, I like what you said about the family unit. It starts with couples, right? Two individuals coming together, and then they have a family. So this is another reason why the social engineers need to infiltrate the minds of individuals, because they know that if they can influence and project mind control, and people fall victim to this, then of course they're going to get into unhealthy relationships and therefore either deplete a lot of their life force energy and time, which will send them into deeper cascades of trauma, or they will actually have children and start a family, which, the percentage of that is extremely low that they're actually going to stay together. And that doesn't even mean that they're going to be conscious stewardships of a young human being and raise a child correctly. So it's multifaceted, and it always just comes down to the individual, what you are doing, what you are learning, the work you are doing onto yourself. That comes first. And then the magnetic attraction, eventually you will come and the frequencies and the vibrations will resonate, and you might come across someone that is at the same level as you. We have to have that self-respect, and not settle, and be truthful to ourselves.
That's a good point. Not settle. How many people settle?
Yeah,
in
Rick,
so many areas,
like that video you showed in the beginning, right?
Yeah. It's self-respect, and it's just, and you guys are all making great points, and that's why I will keep hammering this, because as I was just saying, it has to be heard, and people have to start realizing that this is what we're against, is this, like what you guys are breaking down perfectly, and once you see it, it's everywhere. As I was saying, it's just like, wow, like they are really doing a number, and like you guys, I'm glad you brought up the dating scene, because I mean I have friends that are in this on these dating apps. And this hookup culture is rampant. It really is, and it's shocking. And Will breaks that down great. Like I've always said, there's got to be some trauma that's going on. You cannot just swap partners on even a weekly. I mean, most people I heard people do it daily almost. But I mean, even if you're doing it weekly or monthly, there's going to be some trauma. And what is that going to do? What kind of value do you bring into a relationship then? If you're kind of been around the block many times.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
It's all about stunting and retarding consciousness,
right?
In humanity, when someone's just frivolously having multiple partners consciously, right? Not understanding that this is an energetic exchange. This is a divine union. The sexual act is pleasurable and should be honored and should be frequently with a partner that aligns with moral principles on your level. It's very important, and it's rejuvenating for the soul, the body, and the spirit. But nowadays it's the opposite. It's depleting. It's stagnation for the evolution of a spiritual being. And every partner or the notch on the belt, right? This is taking a piece of your life force and your process. It's keeping people locked into that based consciousness of beasts. That's what that is. That's what the base consciousness is. It's all about feeling good. It's not about the divine higher order thought processes or modalities still being. It's just dopamine hits and it's just stunting growth.
Absolutely. And then you throw in the porn, which is rampant now. Like this whole porn is just everywhere, and so it's just building on to what you said, Will. That it's this whole beast mentality. And it's just now you got people that they don't, they're at home, they're not even really out interacting with people and doing this work. They can get their fix on a porn site, that's a whole subject of damage I think is going on there. What people are seeing there. I mean, I think of porn back when I was younger. I mean, it was a magazine basically, but now, it's just, oh my God. So I get to see the damage that this is doing, and so they're really covering their bases to really keep people in that base conscious and that really low energy. And I think that you guys are making great points that that's the goal, is to get out of this and work on yourself, which it seems that I talk about so much too, because it's so important. To me, it's the foundation. That's what I call the foundation, is this work that I think most people are lacking. They can tell you everything about what's going on in the world and what's wrong in a lot of cases with the world, but they never turn that finger towards themselves, which is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do and still do. I think it's so important.
Yeah, Rick, and ultimately we're doing it unto ourselves and all these, unconscious projections and this and that. And there's the social conditioning that has people, like Will was alluding to, this hedonistic, almost nihilistic, and obviously materialistic, lower sense optional way of, going about this, getting, sucked into another cog in the machine within the matrix, whether it be, through their job and this and that, because you got to get the money to get the whatever, and then, you got your status and blah, 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 kind of like how,
your next
being trained or whatever.
Yeah. Right? Get the money, your next thing. That's supposedly going to fulfill you. And it's just people just keep buying this useless stuff, and I see this, that it just really, you see the power of what they do. And you see people doing that. They just keep trying to plug this hole. And everybody's heard that, you can keep stuffing this hole. A lot of people do it with so many different things. It could be sex addiction. It could be shopping. It could be drugs. They're filling this void. And that's where I think this self-work comes in. I think that's, you're going to fill it with stuff, like with physical things like that. If you know what I mean, like things. That's my thoughts. So, and it's just interesting. It's really, when I see the damage that it's doing, and what I wanted to ask you, because I'm sure you've seen, I found something really fascinating, that the reason that they are attacking the women so heavy is because it was really fascinating that they go after the women, because women are they do 80% of the purchasing. To me, that's fascinating when I heard that so you can see why they market it. They really market to the woman's side of things, because I think women have more power than they realize.
Yeah, with consumerism and materialism.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, they market to the female dynamic. And but it's hitting on all angles, even with men nowadays, right? I mean, you touched on a great point with, porn and all of these distractions. Ultimately just getting men to give up their vital energy, and this is why willpower in a lot of men is extremely low. Drive. People need to understand that for a man, the orgasm is a release of energy. For a woman, it is a receptive of energy. So a woman in orgasm actually gets energetic. She gets vitality, you know? I mean, let's keep on going. For a man, it's like, okay, nap time afterwards. So this is by design. So getting someone that's just, you know, gaming all day, hitting Pornhub, you're depleting your vitality. Right. And this has huge detrimental effects on the physical vessel, psychologically, spiritually, and energetically as well. And this is where they want people to be at. But, you know, the lack of knowledge and the ignorance is so prevalent. I mean, when someone talks about healthy masculinity, people talk about Andrew Tate, you know.
Yes. Yep.
And Andrew Tate is an immature boy.
Oh, hell no.
He's an immature boy, right? But see, people are looking – there's men that are seeking healthy masculinity. That's what they want to activate the man within the boy is what they're looking for. So they see someone like Andrew Tate, which is assertive, you know, has drive and dominant. And these are masculine characteristics and qualities. But he has so many imbalances and unhealthy characteristics as well. And the same thing goes to women, right? There's their own marketing schemes when it comes to women, right? You're supposed to be independent, making all the money in a relationship. I mean, we've seen it all reversed, right? The roles have reversed for sure. So you got to be a bad B, independent man like this. And what this does is on both sides, male and female, it takes the man and the woman out of the rhythm of life. What I mean is that nature in all aspects has a rhythm, a flow to it, whether we're talking about morality and right action versus wrong action, or just creation in general, like creating a house. There's a certain rhythm and flow that you need to utilize and apply that will help the situation manifest. So getting the men and the women out of the rhythm of life, going against nature, this has huge negative effects.
Absolutely.
Right? Yeah. I mean, we know when one is off their path, when they are not in unity consciousness, meaning that their thoughts, emotions, and actions are in opposition, right? Then that individual will see obstacles come up within their life, right? They can't catch a break. You know, all kinds of stuff starts happening. And then when they are on their path and their thoughts, emotions, and actions are in alignment, and doors start opening, their path starts clearing out, and things are looking up, and all these opportunities start popping up. It's because you're activated into the rhythm of energy, of flow, of nature, of life. So keeping men and women out of the rhythm of life means stagnation, control, slavery, and death.
Yeah, great points. I was saying that on the first hour, Will, that in a relationship, it's this ebb and flow, you know, and I also hear people say that relationships are 50-50. I tend to think that relationships are 100-100. And I mean, what I mean is that I put 100% into my relationship, and I know it's not this 50-50 or whatever. It's 100-100 in my opinion. But there's an ebb and flow like that you're saying. And when it works, it's beautiful. It really is. And it's effortless in a lot of ways. And I know people say marriage is work and it's hard work. And there is an aspect. I get what they're trying to say. But what I'm trying to say is that there's this ebb and flow that is very, very, for lack of a better word, like a rhythm, a rhythmic. I don't know the word.
Absolutely. That's why it's called the dance, right? Yeah. The masculine and the feminine. It's the dance. There you go. Right? And I'll just touch on something real quick, and then you guys can jump in.
Sure.
And it was just starting to escape my mind. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. So people think that they will change when they get into a relationship, or the relationship is getting serious, or okay, I'm getting married now I'm a married man, so change. You have to understand, in a healthy relationship, the individuals have done the internal work and they know themselves and they're in alignment with truth, they are the same people the day they met as 30 years later.
That's so true.
20 years later. So there isn't, see, people think they get married, so now it's time to do the work. Now
Right.
I got to grow up, or I got to do this or that. It's about becoming who you are now. Then you get into a relationship.
Yeah, it's so true. And people, yeah, that's a great point. It's so true. What you just said, Will, and I love the way you worded that. It's so true that you think that, because you hear people say that I'm a married man now, I got to buckle down and all of that, and it wasn't like that for me. It really wasn't. And maybe I'm a freak. I don't know. Maybe it's something what I got is rare. I don't think so. I think it's something, when it works, and it's this dancing about, and it's always constantly flowing. Like sometimes, your partner is holding up 90% for that moment, and then it flows another way, and then maybe you're holding it up a bit. It's just really, it's a dance. It's a perfect word, the dance. I love that, and I'm going to remember that. So what are your thoughts, Derek and Jerry? Like, weigh in on this if you want to.
Yeah, I just think, like said, that the feminine and the masculine, they're opposites, and that's so true. Like, the man will want to give solutions, right, to problems, and the woman just wants to be heard at times. So you have to understand the role, and you have to play your part, Crypt. Like you said, you give 100% of your effort into the relationship, and that ensures success. I'll pass it to Derek.
If Derek is with us. There he is.
All right, so I love the fact that we're all over the map. Will, you're on the West Coast.
Yep.
And I'm on the French West Coast. That's a little, whatever, secret joke. But in Gerardo, you are a Mexicano, or at least living over in the southern side of the border. And Rick is in Canada. So this is awesome. And, eventually it'd be kind of cool to just get our perspectives and possible just, like objective observations of what we've kind of seen on the whatever dating landscape or relationship landscape, how men treat women or women treat men and that kind of stuff. And if these dynamics have differences, because I have a difference in France. But
that's interesting, actually.
Yeah, for sure. Bonjour.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
It's not anything like I'm no fucking elite. I'm California bred in the Bay Area, like Will is at. But what I've noticed in America, going to divide and conquer stuff, and how there's so many indifferences and divides and blah blah blah, where it's hard for people to meet eye to eye. There's so many different things, and the social media effect. Oh shoot.
It's okay. Keep going.
I saw your sorry. The social media effect, with OnlyFans now, and
that's another topic.
A lot of people talking smack about whatever side, with the MGTOW movement or the feminist movement, or there's like a term called like TERFs, or all these different things, and what's going on, and there seems to be a huge TikTok videos talking about, women in their 30s or 40s, a wall, apparently, or whatever, single mothers. There's like almost an epidemic with that. And it seems like not a whole lot of people are talking about the missing father dynamic, and how the legal system plays a huge significant factor in that, because, statistically mothers have, the rights of their children a lot more than the fathers do. And there's plenty of deadbeat dads. There's a lot of great dads out there. There's a lot of single, heartbroken fathers because they can't see their kids as well. Okay. So how many people are actually talking that? How many people are like getting out of this non-binary perspective beyond gender, non-dualistic, bitch shit, whatever, right? Yeah. And just, divide and conquer ain't so simplistic.
Well, you make a good point. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. If you want to finish up, please.
Yeah, sure, because there's, I'm over here in France. I've been disconnected. I tune into social media sometimes, a good amount, but I'm not hooked into the pop culture and this stuff, and like these young dudes coming up on whatever TikTok-y platform with their 15 seconds of fame, Snapchat and all that. But there's all these different acronyms and words that I'm just like, wow, y'all are just, trying to get a nanosecond out of your life just to make something sound shorter and cooler, some crap. Like, what is it? Sus or incel or, I mentioned turf and all that, but like an incel, like there's so many weaponized terms with this, or, they can easily become weaponized. And so like an incel, what is that? An involuntary male who's not trying to, or who can't have sex with a woman because they, for whatever reason, and it's just part of this divide and conquer. We compartmentalize any traits of anyone's situation and lump it into something and group a whole bunch of people together and, slather whatever kind of, derogatory, nuances towards that. And, you have the opposite of that. And so it creates these tensions that are just like so unnecessary. Right.
Great points. And I wanted, I'm just checking the time. And I just want to add something in here too, because you kind of brought up the absentee fathers, and we were talking kind of like how they had the family unit divided. And maybe I'll get you to kick this one off, Will, because what I want to do is I want to get your thoughts on what I'm about to ask you, and then I want to talk about solutions. Conscious parenting, and I want to get into solutions, because we can talk about the problems all day of what we're seeing, but I think it's so important that we start talking about solutions and getting people on the right path. So my question to you, Will, is there's a lot of families that are broken homes. There's two parents, they're not together, and they're both trying to raise their children. Can it be done? And what are the steps, do you think, Will, to make this as successful as it could be? Because this is, I think, a big challenge for a lot of people.
Yeah, the question, are you asking, can it be done if the parents are separated?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Yeah, no, just to clarify. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it can be done to the best of your ability, right? I mean, I'm separated with my daughter's mother, but we made the conscious effort and made the conscious decision to live together in the same house, respectively, until our daughter was through the formative years. So when she was 8.5, it was time for us to physically separate. But we weren't in a relationship, a romantic relation, a few years before that. So that was, I'm proud of that, because I definitely think that had a huge positive impact on daughter. But that might not be the case. Here's the thing when it comes to the family unit, is that there is no cookie cutter way that people need to do things. There are objective principles, meaning objective morality, teaching your children how to think, understanding rights and natural law. These are the objective principles that every parent needs to teach their children, hands down. There's no exception. But inner workings and the relationship, or there's no blueprint or process for a separated couple to follow, except for the internal work. Be grounded within yourself. I mean, my situation, my daughter's mother, is extremely difficult. That responsibility of myself to not fall for the narcissistic traits and tendencies is up to me, right? It's very easy for separated parents to just go back and forth and be at war with each other, which is the norm for a lot of separated families, right? The mom and dad are in this war. Well, guess who's getting the aim? Guess who's getting shot down and taking the brunt of all that energetic trauma? The child is.
Yes.
The child is, absolutely. Dad can be upset. Mom can be upset. You can hold grudges all you want. The trauma is on your children. So this is being the bigger person. Sometimes volumes. Again, you have to pick and choose your battles, and it's really on kind of a subjective basis for each family. But yeah, absolutely. Some of the ethical guidelines, obviously agreeing and communicating to the best of your ability on principles. For communication is number one. If you can't communicate, then which most separated parents cannot communicate. So what do? They go to the court system. And like Derek was mentioning, the women, the mother, are highly subsidized. Yeah. And they are just by proxy of, giving birth to the baby, they automatically have, quote unquote, more rights in man's law and in the state, depending on what state you're in. I'm in California. It's definitely a mother state, so it can be a lot, more tough for that. So yeah, but it can't be done. Communication for sure is it's the root of it. This is where this is the foundation of the relationship. And communication is based upon one's own knowledge, understanding, and work they have done within themselves. I know what to say to my daughter's mother when she's in a mood, right? Or right. She's trying to instigate. I know that if I say the wrong thing, it will just, it will spiral out of control. Mm-hmm. So responding instead of reacting. This is where the majority of parents, co-parents need to really kind of repeat that in their head. Okay, I'm going to respond, not react. Because when you are trying to communicate from purely the emotional, you are not thinking, you are not using logic and reason, and you are judging statements or events just on how it made you feel, and guaranteed you will make the wrong decision the majority of the time.
Yep, that's so true. Yeah, and reactive. You're so right, Will, that people, they're in this reactive state. You see that, and it's all led by their feelings, and that's where I think people get into the problem. There's not really any conscious thinking going on or pulling back. I always say, like, pull back a little and kind of get a broader picture. It's okay to pull back and observe a little, and then try to figure things out. Saying about the work on yourself, and it always come back to this solutions. That's the foundation. That's why I'll keep calling it that, and I'll keep talking about it, as I was saying earlier, because it's that important. If you're lacking that, it's like I always tell people: if you're building a skyscraper and you have a weak, shitty foundation, I mean, you could build the most beautiful skyscraper in the world, but if that foundation's not there, it's useless. It's going to fall. Mm-hmm. You can do it. I think in drumming, my drumming teacher hammers this into me, which is kind of a cool coincidence. Is the foundation of drumming is staying in the pocket. Like you can be, and so it really plays into so many aspects of life. Is that you need this foundation, and like you're talking about the family structure. You need that strong foundation, and that's what they're destroying. So what are some of those, like I want to get all three of your thoughts on what are some of the solutions, or what can get people on the right path. Whoever wants to take it first, Will, if you want to, and then Derek, whoever. I want to get all your guys' thoughts before we get to the end of the hour, because I want to get into solutions, because I think a lot of people understand that there's things messed up in the world, even what we're talking about. I'm sure most would agree that they this is what they're observing. But what are the solutions? I've had people say that. They're like, okay, great. Now, where do we start? I always say start working on yourself, but I want to get your guys' thoughts. So who wants to take this one?
That's that Levolution.
I think that
Get him, Jerry.
The answer is simple. It's the shadow work, knowledge of self, and it's love, ultimately. If you love yourself, you'll be full, and then that love can extend to others. But without, like Will just said, like you have to tell yourself, like hammer it into your conscious that you will not react, but you will respond. That's internal work. That's not huge. An external force. It's work, hard work. That is hard, If you want the easy route, react. You don't have to think. That's what I gotta say.
That's awesome, Jerry. Thank you. And Derek, what are your man? Give it to where you're going with this.
Yes, it is hard because it ain't easy to really truly have that self-reflection, that respect, as the video that you mentioned shown in the beginning, and I call it, in. It depends on, certain catalysts and dark nights of the soul, but yeah, doing the shadow work, really looking into the windows of your soul, seeing yourself eye to eye, and really digging down deep and really truly feeling and knowing what's inside counts for so much. And yeah, I'll just say, for speaking from experience, because we can keep it all mystic, or boil it down more simplistic and
right.
grounded, as far as just my successes and navigating relationships and heartbreaks, and having those alchemical phoenixing up through the ashes of ways that I could become more correct and this and that. And I see any interaction as a learning experience, and that's why I see a lot of dating, people be like, oh, this person's a waste of my time, and yeah. I mean, I mentioned this on Mario West's Conversations with Men chat, but just, being truly aligned to your purpose, why you're truly here, it really magnifies that energetic, kinetic, magnetic frequency that is going to attract someone of your caliber that much more frequently.
Right.
And I've had so many fruitful relationships. I mean, I've suffered heartache and all that, but I truly love all these women still, and I don't hold that, as, some kind of negative, trauma attachment or that kind of stuff. We all have to move on and this and that, and people have to cut their cords whatever ways. But for me as a man, and, just truly having profound multidimensional admiration for the divine feminine essence, and just knowing that inspires me to just come up with more fresher ways to pay homage to that when it's in my presence, I guess. And that goes for even plutonic interactions. Like, there's so many people that we talk to on social media, Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and people are up in arms like, oh, why is this guy up in my DMs? Or that, when folks like Will and Jerry and you, Rick, were just trying to network and meet more like-minded people, possibly do podcasts and that kind of stuff. And it's just the learning interactions of that each one teach one type of thing. So
you can learn from anybody. Like, I learn from everybody. I learn from everybody that I kind of interact with something. I mean, I really do. And even children. I think children are great teachers. People grew up in an area where, if you're a kid, you kind of shut, like that's what a lot of parents did. You were kind of seen but not heard. And then you start to realize that children are a wealth of knowledge. They really are. They're fascinating to watch and to interact with, and I love their honesty too. A lot of them are so honest. I mean, but you can learn so much. I think from everyone that you meet, and it becomes very beneficial the more people that you kind of interact with. I've learned so much from every one of you that I interact with and I meet, and along this journey I'm on. And like I was saying, children is another one. You learn from everyone. So it's just really, and I would like to get you back on, Jerry, because you were saying you found Mark Passio's work, and you have the military. I mean, you were saying you could have still been there in that mindset. That's powerful, and I really do want to get you on sometime to dive into this, because I think that is really, really powerful. And once we get into it, it's going to help a lot of people. But what are your thoughts? Well, I think that every interaction you can take some great knowledge from it.
Absolutely. No, yeah, Jerry and Derek and you, Rick, said some really good points. As far as solutions, I call it ARC, A-R-C. So we need to stand under the arc, because the arc has a 0 point and a trajectory, and it arcs, right? So there is growth to get to your destination. This for accountability. So where are you at in your current moment? And this can apply to relationships, parenting, anything, accomplishing goals. So the A, accountability, where are you at in the present moment, right? Observe your thoughts, emotions, and actions. So you have to take a checklist, where am I at in life right now? The R is responsibility. How do I get to where I want to go? I want to get in a relationship, if I want to be a better parent. So you have direction. What can you do? You have to take the responsibility and figure out what are the steps that I myself need to take within myself and externally as well. And then the C is for care. And this is the why. You want to be in a relationship? Why? What do you care about? What are your values? You need to understand this aspect. These three put together, you're going to really get a grounded, accurate perception of your own inner workings, right? All three of this is part of the internal work. And then you're going to have a clearer vision of where you're at, because you have to see it to achieve it.
That's
right.
True.
The greatest nation in the world, the only nation in the world that actually counts, is the I Magi nation. So if you don't know who you are and where you're at in that present moment, then you're going to have no idea where you're going or who you're going to meet or how that interaction is going to turn out.
Yeah.
So get under the ark.
That's a great, and I'll never forget that now. Yeah, I'll never forget that. That's a great little thing for people to remember, ARC. And you nailed it, Will. Every aspect. And Derek, great points. Jerry, I want to thank you guys, each and every one of you, seriously, for taking the time to be and join me on this show, because I think we really got into some important stuff and some an important topic, this divide that we're kind of diving into, that is between the male and the feminine, the masculine and the feminine. It's I think, and it's an important one, and I'll keep saying that because it's really impacts in everything in so many areas. And we kind of got into the family structure and how they're attacking that, and this is really key stuff. And the final solution is, like you guys were saying, this work that has to be done on yourself, and it is hard work, and it's work. That's why they call it shadow work. It's work. And you got to be brutally honest. It's really tough to be that honest with yourself. And I'm glad that we kind of don't. It gives people the motivation to start doing the work on themselves and to align themselves with truth and with objective morality and with what that's going to just grow. And I think that's so important. So thank you guys so much. I really was looking forward to this. I enjoyed this so much. I appreciate everybody that's listening and taking the time to come and listen every week. You guys are, you're the greatest. You really are. And it shows that you care as well. You care if you're listening and you want to make change and you want to change yourself and you want to improve the world and leave something for the children coming up behind us. You care. And that is so valuable, I think, and so important. So I just want to check the time. I want to make sure I give everybody at least a minute to break down. Okay, we got a few minutes. So, Will, where can people find your work?
Excellent.
We got a few minutes. I want to make sure everybody gets their moment.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to be on your show, Rick, with your excellent viewers and listenership. And it's great to converse with Derek and Jerry, these guys doing the one great work and activating. I love it. You can get to all my work at my official website, which is willkeller.com, WILLKELLER.com. I'm also on the onegreatworknetwork.com. I got my work on there, and check out my presentations and my interviews, and I respond to emails and messages. So if anybody has any questions or clarifications, you can message me there. And thanks again for having me, Rick.
Absolutely, yeah. And I'm just putting your link to willkeller.com. That will be in the chat, guys. So please go and check it out. And he's easy to get a hold of. If you have any questions, he will definitely answer them for you. Go ahead there and let everyone know, Derek, where they can find your work and what you got going on. The floor is yours.
Yeah, cheers, Rick. Thank you so much. And Will, real quick, you're live every Wednesday now, if I'm not correct, at 6 p.m. Pacific.
Oh yeah, so I'm actually doing. I'm
not your last one. That was cool.
I'm not weekly. I'm doing bi-weekly. So it's the first and third Wednesday of each month. I'm doing a presentation series. It's like 2 to 3 hours, and I also do open discussion for people to come onto the show. And people can find the schedule and the details on my website. So thanks for bringing that up, Derek.
Yeah, sure will. Yeah, I caught it a day later because of the time difference, and I was trying to call in. I was like, oh, wait, it's on replay. I was listening to your show, which was great, talking about morality, and then saw the brother Chris and Fred that hopped on earlier. That was cool, yo. But yeah, just real quick, because to cap off, I love the fact that we all came together and brought more positive verbiage, if you will, or not jargon, but just the majority of conversation or tone of speech I hear about the dating scene and all this stuff is a lot more negative. And it's so easy to just commentate on these things and this and that, but it does take work to actually see it for what it is, be the observer, try to find solutions, and learn apophatically from all things that are bad, and see the positive opposite side of that, and try to just be aligned to that more or less. And so for anyone, we've all seen, it's super popular now to just complain and be like, oh, all the girls are whatever, or oh, all these guys are slobs and this and that. Well, guess what? These are the people that are continually showing up in their lives, because those are the wheels that they're spinning. Law of attraction, natural law, hermetic principles, the things that people really need to grasp a hold of, as we've been alluding to and talking about throughout this conversation, to really, have a proper relationship within oneself before even having a proper one with anyone else, right? You ain't got love to give if you ain't got it for yourself, type of thing.
So
Revolution, baby. Yeah.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Derek. I'll make sure I leave links in the chat for Derek's content. So please go check it out. He does amazing music stuff. I love it.
My full name, Linktree. You can check me out. I have all my platforms.
Perfect.
Jerry.
I'll make sure I put the link. And Jerry, do you have anything you want to let people? Yeah, One Great Work Warriors. What do you want people to know? What are you working on? The last minuters.
Sure. I am starting to put up. You can find my content with the One Great Work Warriors. You'll find my link there to my channel. I'm still working on a name, but it's Truth Over Fear 95 as of now. I copied it off of someone, so I have to change it. But what I do want to say is not only Mark Passio changed my life, but also Richard Grove's work. And he has an online course called Autonomy. And I just want to recommend you check it out at getautonomy.info.
Perfect. All right. I'll make sure I put that link in there as well. And once again, thank each and every one of you. Guys are truly
Rick,
great.
Thanks so much, brother.
You're very welcome, and you're always welcome back. I already had a couple of people thanking me for this conversation, so it's showing that people, this is something they want to talk about and understand, is this whole family divide, relationship divide. So you guys are all amazing. Keep doing the great work you're doing, because it's making a difference. I believe that. People are starting to seek this out. So thank you so much, guys. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I will be back Thursday, the Crypt, Rick, and Jonathan show. Stick around, and I will see you next week back here at the same time.
Thanks.
Listening to Revolution.
Revolution Radio, every Wednesday Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
This is the people's war. It is our war. We are the fighters. Fight it then. Fight it with all that is in us. And may God defend the right.
Warning! Warning!
We gotta stop them! They're gonna kill us all!
The trouble you've started?
they the government, be they industry, be they organized labor, be they anyone, or human beings. When the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. Your eyes upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free,